Alright, it's been a while, and season 2 of Invincible has just came out, and this TV show had a very similar release schedule to my YouTube channel, just uploading consistently just to stop after a while. And I gotta say, even after this TV show started releasing the rest of the episodes, I didn't even start watching them or get invested until I was 100% sure that all 8 episodes have released. And I gotta say, after watching all 8 episodes, I don't really like this season as much as I did the first one. And I don't really say that in a bad way. In no way is this season bad, but I hate whenever projects are on this weird release schedule. And I never said this on my YouTube channel, but I generally like whenever TV shows tend to acknowledge bad CGI or writing. I think my personal favorite projects that do this is Family Guy and the Deadpool movies, because to me I get the idea that the writers put their pride to the side and realize that they can't keep the TV show 100% consistent and that they make mistakes. I like whenever projects do that because it shows the writers and the team are growing and not treating their audiences like we're idiots and expecting us to just like whatever these studios tend to put out. Though this really isn't the case for Invincible, but I hate when they try to justify in this TV show why they took a 5 to 6 month break to release the rest of the episodes.
When's a new season of Seance Dog coming out?
You mean the show? Probably not for another year. Sorry, animation takes a long time. You ever notice that sometimes whoever's speaking has their mouth off camera so you never see their lips moving? Other times we'll do a wide shot and slowly pan across it. It looks like it's animated, but it's so far away, you don't notice nothing's moving.
Well, if it takes that long to do animation, why don't you just fucking wait till all 8 episodes are fucking completely finished? But this doesn't make me hate the TV show. I'm just fed up with this weird release schedule. Anyways, let's get to the reason why I didn't like this season as much. For starters, the animation is really fucking terrible at times. There's this really funny scene where Amber takes a drink out of her cup and nothing comes out. Now, I'm not gonna complain too much about the animation because it's very clear that this TV show spent a majority of its money on the talent. I mean, the cast for this TV show is probably one of the craziest castings I've seen for an animated TV show in a long time. But like I said, I'm not going to critique the animation too much because the budget clearly went to getting these actors. But my major critique with this season is that this season is just full of filler, and I don't really say that in a bad way because it's clearly setting shit up for season 3. The best way I can describe this is that this second season feels like the first hour of Across the Spider-Verse, where really nothing's really going on for the first half. Then whenever it finally kicks off, it kind of felt like it took a bit of a long time to even get here. But again, it's clearly setting shit up. Now for this season, I have 2 major critiques for this TV show that were especially prevalent in this season. For starters, that whole thing about Donald, Kate, Alan the alien, and the guy who got turned into a robot. Well, the major problems that I have with this TV show is that no one really stays dead. Now Donald gets his treatment the worst by far, and that's because there's a fucking exoskeleton inside of him that is keeping Donald alive, because Donald has died a total of 39 times. Not during this season, during his entire life. And the show also tells us that Donald is 98% machine, which means that 2% that is the human portion of Donald is just his skin and his hair. Then with Kate, the duplicate girl, she actually dies because all of her duplicates died before she could duplicate again. And then in episode 8, it's shown that the other versions of Kate that died were just her duplicates, and she lives her life through a duplicate. Then Alan the alien gets annihilated, and this happened a couple episodes back, and he just somehow comes back to life even though his life support machine was turned off.
I'm afraid I owe you an apology. When we brought you here after the Viltrumite attack, I turned off your life support machine and left you to fend for yourself.
How is he still alive? And he just comes back to life stronger and better. The problem that I have with this is that usually whenever characters die, their death is usually supposed to be shocking and have some depth to it. But here, all of them pretty much come back to life in some way or form. Like for the audience, it kind of gives the message that whose death is supposed to have impact when they can just come back to life, if that makes any sense. And honestly, I think the only logical reason I can come up with is that this studio spent way too much money on casting these actors to the point that they suffer financially if they tend to make the story better just to kill off their main characters. And we as an audience suffer because no one's death really means anything. And my last critique of this show is that obviously it's setting shit up, right? And unfortunately I'm going to take that into account for the second season, and I'm going to touch up on a subject that only a few people have briefly talked about, because I think I'm really the only person on this planet that has really put this together. But a lot of people tend to say that this show and The Boys are really good because these shows are not like DC or Marvel, and I don't know what the hell these guys are talking about, because Invincible is pretty similar to DC to a point that I don't think people understand how similar they are. And though I can agree they're not like Marvel, but they are really similar to DC, with the exception of The Boys, because the whole main plot of that TV show is really different from anything we have seen in a superhero project thus far. Now the reason why I say Invincible is very similar to DC is because the main plot of Invincible is really just a plot that I have seen in DC before a bunch of times. I understand that these guys definitely took inspiration from DC, but I can't even call it inspiration because it just feels like someone copied your homework answers but just slightly changed their answers. And if you don't believe me, just listen to what I have to say. This is your last warning because this is probably going to ruin your perception on this. It ruined mine at least. Alright, you ready? A story where the strongest character in that story is from a different planet, then in some way ends up being on Earth. Meanwhile, that empire the strongest character is from wants to conquer Earth and believes that they are doing a good thing. The strongest character ends up either having or meeting a person that is in some way related to them. That same character that is related to the strongest character turns out to have different morals and ends up disagreeing with the strongest character. A secret society that ends up rebelling against the empire and wanting to fight for their planet. An invasion of a different race of characters that want to take over Earth. That same strongest character goes insane for whatever reason that ends up killing members of the strongest team on the planet. That same strongest team, mind you, is composed of some very similar characters. A character that traditionally wears black and gray, has a cape, and uses gadgets to compensate for his lack of powers. A character that has super speed that also traditionally wears red. A character that possesses a ring that allows them to either manipulate matter or themselves. A character who has a sword or a mace that is in some way tied to war. A character who is from Mars and has the ability to shapeshift and fucking hates fire. A character who's from the submerged city of Atlantis. And that's not even mentioning the fact how close their names are. Martian Man and Martian Manhunter, Green Ghost and Green Lantern, King Aquarius and King Arthur, War Woman and Wonder Woman. Like, Jesus Christ, man, this isn't even inspiration because barely anything is different. This is pretty much the same plot that you see in DC's most popular stories. And listen, this doesn't even make the TV show bad for me. But if you bitch about Marvel and DC being all the same and in shambles lately, but then you like this TV show, then you're an idiot because this is pretty much the same shit that I've seen in DC lately. It's just different faces and costumes. And I know I used multiple different projects that were from DC, but even if you have at least seen a couple of DC's most popular projects or comics, then you can kind of see that they're kind of just one-to-one here. Anyway, this kind of ruins the Invincible show for me because I kind of feel like I already know how this TV show is going to end. And you know what? I'm feeling a bit nice. I don't really think it would be appropriate to give this season a score, since I still do like this TV show, even though I've been poking holes in it this whole video. But they are very clearly setting up something special, and I would really like to see where this TV show takes itself next, even though I can kind of see where they're going with it. My major problems is that no one's really ever dead. There's that whole thing with that weird ass release schedule, and that whole thing about the DC inspiration thing. 2 out of 10 for the season. I'm just kidding. 7.5 out of 10.
Officer Bowles.